Hey everyone, welcome to Riffin with HB, where we talk about old school and underrated bands and trying to bring it to the masses. Today we're covering the Marshall Tucker Band. Excuse me, covering the Marshall Tucker Band. They're from 1962. When that's here, 72. Sorry, 1972. I'm excited to talk about this band. This is a recommendation from a viewer. They're actually a South Carolina band, says from my home state. They're from Spartanburg, South Carolina. Actually from Elgin, South Carolina. That's where I grew up at. So let's go ahead and get right into it, guys. Formed in 1972 in Spartanburg, South Carolina, like I mentioned. They were originally named the Toy Factory because the members of the band, Toy and Tommy Caldwell, originally started a group called the Toy Factory. After a brotherly disagreement, Tommy left and started another group later on. Toy made up with the bands and then left the Toy Factory and then to become what is now the Marshall Tucker Band. I actually have a video here because this is kind of intricate on how they actually got to the name Marshall Tucker. I'm going to have a great video here that explains how they got their name. But in the gist of it, it comes from a blind man from South Carolina who was a piano tunist. And here, I'll play the clip for you guys and let it speak for itself.
Mr. Tucker said, "I was renting a warehouse space from a fellow named Abe Smith around 1967 or 68. This warehouse was on Spring Street, right behind Mr. Smith's pawn shop on Magnolia Street. I would rebuild and tune pianos in that space. Unknown to me, there was a band that would come and practice there. The key that I used to get into the warehouse had a tag on it that had my name on it, Marshall Tucker. And how the story went, that was told to me. The band was going under the name of the Toy Factory, which was the name after the founding member, Toy Caldwell. And they said that the name just wasn't going over. So they had been seeing my name on that key tag, and one of them said, "Let's just name it the Marshall Tucker Band. I'm hungry, let's go eat." And that was it. Our paths crossed, but we didn't even know it.
So that's the story on how they got the name Marshall Tucker. It was from a blind pianist, and he had his name on one of the pieces of equipment they were using, and they decided to just call themselves the Marshall Tucker Band. They were hungry, they wanted to go eat. I like that. That's pretty cool. Very rock and roll. But let's go ahead and just get into. Actually, before I get into the original members of the band, let's go ahead and do what we normally do. Go ahead and give a shout out to all the members of the band, all the members who were involved. And then I'll pull the original members. Like I mentioned, 1972, songwriter, primary songwriter anyway, Toy Caldwell, lead vocalist, Doug Gray, keyboard player, saxophone player, and flutist, Jerry Eubanks, rhythm guitarist, George McCorkle, drummer, Paul Riddle, and bass guitarist, Tommy Caldwell. They signed with Capricorn Records and released their first album in 1973 under the name Marshall Tucker Band. After Tommy Caldwell was killed in a car accident in 1980, he was replaced by bassist Frankie Wilkie, and most of the original band members had left by 1984. The band's current lineup consists of Gray on vocals, keyboard player, saxophonist, and flutist Marcus James Henderson, guitarist Chris Hicks, and Rick Willis, and bassist Ryan Ware, drummer Leroy Wilson. Okay, now they got through all that. Let's go ahead and get into their first. I got some personal notes I'll come back and read for you guys, but right now we'll just go ahead and talk about the songs that they're releasing. Their debut album, produced by Paul Hornsby, was released in 1973 and certified gold in 1975, and all the tracks were written by Toy Caldwell, including Can't You See, which was also lead sung by Toy. Released as a popular single in 1973 and re-released in 77, generating much FM airplay and becoming the group's best-known song. After the album's release, the band began touring and playing upwards of 300 shows per year throughout the decade. Southern rock fiddler Charlie Daniels later recalled that the Marshall Tucker came on stage and just blew it out just from the start. Daniels' first of many collaborations with the Marshall Tucker Band came on the band's second album, A New Life, which was released in 1974 and certified gold in 77. Daniels and blues guitarist Evelyn Bishop were among several musicians that joined the band for We Are All Along, a double album, one side album and one live album, or one studio album rather, and one live album. Released in 74, certified gold that same year. Right. The following year, the band Searching for a Rainbow, great album, was also certified gold the year of its release, and contained the track Fire on the Mountain, which peaked at number 38 on the Billboard charts. Pretty cool. Daniel's first of many collaborations with the Marshall Tucker Band came on the band's second album, A New Life, which was released in 1974 and certified gold in 77. Oh, sorry, I already read this part. My bad. Rereading it. My bad. The following year, Long Hard Ride, the band's fifth consecutive gold album, was released, and its instrumental track, that was 1976, and its instrumental track, which was again featured Charlie Daniels on the fiddle, was nominated for a Grammy. Carolina Dreams, released in 77, was certified. The next year was released certified platinum that same year. Most commercially successful album was Carolina Dreams. It included the track Heard It in a Love Song, which reached number 14 on the Billboard charts. Um, Remembering the early years of 2012, Doug Gray describes the band as being like a bowl of soup your mom would cook. Whatever was in the refrigerator was all thrown in there, and however it tasted was what it was. As a Gray remarks, the result was so electric that the press didn't really know what to make of them, as they failed to fit nearly any pigeonhole. And that's great. That's what I love about a band. Like you can't tell me what I am because it's just a mixture. Like that's what really good music should be. It's just a mixture all the different sounds and styles and create something your own. You don't have to fit yourself into a genre. I love that. Um, cool. Let's get into some personal notes here. Let me check the comments real fast for a second, you guys. Give me just a minute, please. Cheers. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks, everyone. Cool, cool, cool. Thank you guys for showing up. All right. I got some personal notes I wrote down. I watched a documentary this morning and I kind of wrote this down as I was watching the documentary. I should put the link in the description for you guys after the show if you want to watch it. It's about 20 minutes or so. But just for words that come out of my mouth that I wrote down this morning, watching that documentary, they played songs that had a really fast tempo, really jazzy beat. Another jam band. We've mentioned a couple different jam bands: the Grateful Dead, CCR, Leonard Skinner, that are southern rock bands, country bands that get on stage and just jam for 10 plus minutes. And this is no different with the Marshall Tucker Band. Definitely blues inspired. BB King was actually one of their biggest influences. Listening to blues on the radio. Again, Southern South Carolina, it's a lot of that kind of stuff that's played on the radio, especially in the 60s and 70s. Still to this day, a lot of that stuff resonates through. Definitely reminiscent of Leonard Skinner and Grateful Dead for sure if you listen to their music. They incorporated blues, country, rock, and jazz into an electric sound. The drums, especially with the jazzy sound drums, the wind instruments rather. Let's go ahead and get into the start of the band. We already got how they got their name, and Tommy Caldwell was the first of the band members who learned the guitar from his father, who played a six string, and then he played drums for a little while before switching to the bass guitar, which he played for the band. That was around 12 years old. In 1966, Toy enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps, training at Parris Island, South Carolina, and later shipped off to Vietnam. And in September of 1968, he was evacuated for 2 weeks. After being wounded, but then returned for duty later on and was discharged in 1969 and began playing music with the band again after that. And again, we're mentioning this again. A lot of these bands that I mentioned, 1972, 1965, 1962, 1965, 1964, on and on. These bands were being drafted into the military, and the band members were as well, and kind of created the style of the sound of the music. It's what we associate a lot of the sound of the 70s with the Vietnam War, because these people were living it for sure. And whenever he came back, his brother Tommy joined the Marines after he returned, and he was medically discharged after graduation in 1970, and he joined up with the band. He joined up with Toy, Doug, Gray, Jerry Ebanks, George McCorkle, Paul Riddle, to form what is now Marshall Tucker Band. The band produced a total of 14 albums between 1973 and 1984, 7 gold and 2 platinum, before disbanding later in 84. And then, a lot of the band members left, and they still carried on for a while. But that's 14 albums between 73 and 84. So 11 years, 14 albums. That's incredible. Again, a lot of these old school bands, they were doing this as a job. They weren't just messing around with making music. They were really putting in the work, and every year creating at least one album. That's incredible. And 7 of them being gold and 2 platinum. I mean, I don't really know anyone doing that kind of stuff today. After recording the 10th album in 1980, Tommy Caldwell died after his off-road vehicle hit a car in town, and he died a week later from brain damage. I'm in the hospital. His a lot of he talked about how a lot of these songs they were kind of written on tour buses and in hotels, and that's the kind of life these guys were living. They were out on the road and they were young. He was 30 years old whenever he passed away, so just being rock stars, being kids and being dumb. I mean, I guess 30 years old is not really a kid, but it's definitely somebody who's like very, vulnerable in a situation of being a rock star where you have tons of money and tons of fame and little life experience. And unfortunately, I can see a situation very similar in my head where if I was that famous, that young, that I could end up in a situation like that, just trying to have fun and end up getting hurt. Because he was in a roll cage and he did have a harness on, but he ended up bumping his head on the concrete. And that's what caused him to die later on. But again, it speaks to what I was talking about these songs don't have to be written, in a place of enlightenment. You don't have to be rich and famous to write these songs. Some of these songs were written while these bands were traveling around and while they were hurting and missing their families and stuff like that. That's why they created these songs. It created the feeling and created the emotion. We're going to get into a little bit later about how this relates into poetry with good songwriting, especially in the song "Can't You See," one of their famous songs. I'll get into that in a little bit here at the end of the show. But a band needs a good leader, and both of these guys, Toy and Tommy, were master musicians. And whenever I say that, it's like, music is all subjective, I guess, at the end of the day, right? So what you call a master musician can really all be subjective. But whenever you really know how to take a song and put that feeling into what you're feeling and say it into words where everybody can relate to it, that's like poetry with music, just with tunes and melody. And that's what makes a good song. Everybody can relate to it. And that's what I put in here, and I'm going to mention this again later as well. It's like a great band member has a great leader. It sometimes is the lead singer. Most of the times, arguably, it's the lead singer. But I feel like people should stay in their lane in life and in a band, because if you're a guitarist and you're not a great lyricist or singer, let the singer do his thing. And hey, if you're a singer, let the guitarist do his thing. And that doesn't mean people can't have input. Like, hey, well, what do you think about this? And, oh, yeah, I think that's cool. And again, that's what makes a great band. It's hard to get people to be able to collaborate like that with regular ideas, much less to be able to do it and do your part. But you have to just do your part and not really like try to step in people's creative way. Because after he ended up passing away, the band changed dramatically, the sound of the band, because they didn't have a good leader. And every band needs that. Whether, again, it's the lead singer or somebody to take charge and say, hey, I think we should do it like this. You do this, and then we'll make this work like clockwork, like gears of a clock. I want to go on to say right here, and Toy in 1992 came out with a solo album. This is later on after his brother's death, but unfortunately he passed away on the morning of February 25th in 1993 from a drug overdose, reportedly cocaine and Valium. And again, it's sad. It speaks to the rock and roll lifestyle. It's unfortunate, but these guys, they were great songwriters, and just because they had their faults, they've done those things, and they've had their dramas or whatever in the past, doesn't discredit who they were as a band at all. 100%. The band credits Jimmy Hall of the Wet Willies band for getting their foot in the door with the Capricorn Records. That's the record label they sang on, as well as the Allman Brothers. The Allman Brothers took them on the road to open for them, which we're going to be covering here soon. The Allman Brothers band. I have a list of bands I'll show at the end of the show that we'll be getting into. But Toy said that they put us in front of 1 million people. Charlie Daniels, also, as I mentioned, he played fiddle on some of the earlier records as well, which kind of gave them a lot of exposure, and they credited him for that as well. George, the rhythm guitarist, once said that playing guitar alongside Toy Caldwell wasn't just playing guitar. It was sharing a mind with me at his side. It was sharing a mind. With me at his side, he had the freedom to do whatever came to his mind, and I could instinctively interpret whatever it was that he was doing and experiment with it. And that's what I was talking about with the language of music. And this guy's he's a musician. He's expressing exactly what I've been talking about, how it was like we were sharing a mind. With me at his side, we had the freedom to do whatever it came to his mind, and I could instinctively interpret whatever it was that he wanted to experiment with. And that's what makes a good musician. That's what makes a great man. That's what, to me, it makes a master musician, is being able to do your thing step in. If I'm a guitarist, I don't need to bring my, Rage Against the Machine, Nirvana influence into what I'm playing with. Because if you're a jazz drummer, we can collaborate. We can meet somewhere in the middle. We can create something unique. But if I try to stay, like I said, if I don't try to stay in my lane and do my thing, if I try to like branch out and do something that somebody else is doing, then that's when it's going to cause problems. But we have to be able to like mix and match our efforts. If you're a drummer, you switch time signatures to match somebody's guitar playing, and if you're guitar playing, you're going to try to match their style. That's what a good band does. Um, but as long as you're doing your thing, as long as you're not telling them how to play, and as long as you're trying to help match, and like it's like talking without language. That's all I can really interpret it as. It's like musical telepathy. It's the language of music. It's being able to be like play a G chord and like, oh, that G chord sounds good. What if I do this with these drums? Okay, that sounds really good. What if you sped it out just a little bit, and then you experiment with it? That's what music is. That's how these guys are creating songs. It's not rocket science. It's just intuition, and you can get good at it by practicing. Which I should mention again. After the show, we do jam sesh. So you guys be prepared for that here after the show. Um, I figured this was going to be a kind of long episode, but I want to cover this thoroughly because there's a lot to cover here. Um, um, let's talk about a little bit about Can't You See, because Can't You See, a great song, probably my favorite song, and obviously the most well-known song by them. But the reason why it's a favorite song to me is because there's always music is really strong memories, just like the way that certain smells can bring you back to like a certain time and place. Music does the same thing. When you hear a song, you can remember where you were when you first heard it as a kid, and that does the same thing to me. I can remember being young and hearing that song and just hearing the poetry and the words he was saying. I'm going to take me a freight train, take it all the way to Georgia. I don't care where it goes. Don't care if it runs out of tracks. Like that's that kind of whole idea of like, you know, be willing to do anything to make your life better, to be able to change it. And I remember thinking about that being young. And I still, every time I hear that song, I still carry that same sentiment because, again, I was watching an interview with the current lead singer, Gary, talking about the idea whenever he wrote that song, whenever Troy wrote that song, rather, that it was kind of, he never had his heart broken, you know, talking about a girl leaving him and stuff like that. He's like, that never happened to him. But that's what made him a master musician, is that he was able to take a story that he had never felt, an idea, encompass it, and be able to say it, and where everyone could relate to it, whether it happened to you or not. And that's beautiful. That's what a good artist does. I try to do the same thing in my music. And I was talking about this at the beginning of the show with them about how they don't try to stay into a genre. And I like that, because if you try to box yourself up, you're limiting your creativity. So you bring your poetry into the music and you just let it flow. You let it be what it is. And if it comes out country sounding, it's a country song. And if it comes out R&B, it's an R&B. If it comes out rap, it's a rap. Like, just let it be what it's going to be and let it go. And then, sure, there's a lot of bands we've already covered that have had other people write songs. And obviously, there's been people within the bands who aren't the lead singers have them write songs. This is a perfect example. It kind of kills my soul a little bit whenever I see other people like write a song for somebody that they don't perform, because it's supposed to be like, the whole idea of getting those songs and ideas is coming from you. It's coming to you for you to sing and you to do. But, you know, I guess anyone can make the argument that people can write songs and make it for whoever, and that can be their opinion, right? And that's totally agreeable. I just think that it's a musical gift to be able to get together with a group like the Marshall Tucker Band, like we're seeing here, and for them to really perform and do their thing where it's magical. And the reason why they have such a following is just like the Grateful Dead and just like Leonard Skinner's, because this music is powerful. It's doing something to people's emotions whenever they're witnessing this stuff, especially live. Obviously, live, seeing the music is a whole different experience. And you can imagine seeing these guys for the first time during that time was creating the sound of the 60s and the 70s right before our eyes. It's beautiful. The 70s in this case, right? Here's another picture of him for you guys. I want to talk about a little bit about Marcus King. If you guys don't know Marcus King, he's actually from South Carolina as well. I believe Greenville, South Carolina, and he's influenced a lot by this band and blues music from South Carolina. Like I mentioned, this music is art, so it's all influenced down the line. You know, somebody sees B.B. King, the Marshall Tucker Band's made. Somebody grows up, a kid who's 29 years old, grows up and sees Marshall Tucker Band, they become a Marcus King. very ironic how times turn like that. But I wanted to highlight him a little bit here because he was part of the Toy Factory project, which is named after Marshall Tucker Band's Caldwell and the All Star group featuring King, Charlie Starr from Blackberry Smoke, Otio Burbridge, and debuted in 2005 in Telleroo Bluegrass Festival. So I guess you guys should check that out. I haven't heard anything about that. But I also did see that they recently released a Christmas album last month, which I thought was pretty weird. I don't know why they would release it last month, but yeah, it's a pretty good album from the couple songs that I was listening to on it before the show. I would check that out. You guys can get back to me and tell me what you think about that. But yeah, King has performed with the original Marshall Tucker Band drummer Paul Riddle, and his father Marvin King was a longtime friend of the band, so that's how he actually became connected with the band. Performances, King had derived or deliverable. Sorry, King has delivered notable renditions of "Can't You See" or "This Old Cowboy" and "Fire on the Mountain," often with guests like Sierra Farrell and Nikki Lane, who I'm not familiar with. If you guys are, let me know in the chat. As a young guitarist from South Carolina, King grew up with the music of Spartanburg-based Marshall Tucker Band, often covering their songs. And that's how he got into the band. So I thought that was pretty neat, guys. You can check some comments out here. That's Hoosier. Oh, and I hate it at the same time. Isn't that Hoosier? Cheers. It's actually gotten pretty good here. It's not too cold. Cheers, cheers, cheers. A few tires and a few odds and ends are coming. That's what's up, Nerby, man. I like that. I love when people are trying to do their hobbies. That's just my freaking that's my joy in life, watching people do their passions and stuff. I like that. I just recently got a I know this is all topic totally from the show. You guys would just hold on just a second. Yeah, I got a e-bike recently and I take it up in the mountains. It's pretty badass, man. I like it a lot. Cheers. Yeah, cool. I switched up the color today. Somebody asked me the other day, "It's like, what's up with the beanie, man? What's up with the vest?" Like, it's just my style. Like, it's just that combination. It's just what I do. There is a backstory behind it. Maybe I'll get into it and make a video on it, but save it for a different day. Yeah, Marshall Tucker Band, man. Very, very jam band. I think I'm learning something about myself with this show. Is I really like jam bands and Leonard Skinner and CCR. A lot of these bands, I like bands that can get on stage and just jam out for 10 minutes. So I think a lot of people they get tired of it, but me, I'm musically minded, so I like the rhythm and the repetitiveness. So I can go on and on with that kind of thing. Sometimes it gets to a point where I'll replay a song over and over on repeat. I'll be thinking to myself like, "Geez, how am I driving myself crazy? I've been listening to this for 3 days on repeat." But it's just even how my brain works, like with music. And I think of these kind of bands really like kind of they, you know, they fill that niche for me, I guess. And we'll be covering some different bands, so I should go ahead and get into that. I have a list here of the next bands we'll be covering. Next weekend we'll be covering Paramore and Hayley Williams. I wanted to get a female in the mix. And then we're going to be covering, in the order here, we're going to be covering the Allman Brothers, Little Stranger, Prof, Seether, Steve Miller, Megadeth, Modest Mouse, and then a band called Wookie Foot as well. Yeah, some bands you haven't heard of, but if you guys listen to them, you'll probably find something new that you really like. Yeah. Again, that list is Allman Brothers, Little Stranger, Prof, Seether, Steve Miller, Megadeth, Modest Mouse, and Wookie Foot. Modest Mouse, I'm excited to get into that. Definitely a band that I like to talk about to my friends because it's a band they don't really know about that probably everyone's maybe heard a song by them, and they don't really deep dive into them and really get to learn about the nooks and the crannies of a weird band like that that has some really great songs to offer. And the thing about me is I love old school bands like Marshall Tucker, who I've been here since I was a kid. That's all really great. But I do love discovering new music, and discovering new music again. It does the same thing as we did whenever we were kids. It like more stamps a place in time. It does the same thing now. whenever I finally discover a new band, I'm like, wow, I can remember where I was when I discovered that new band. So it's always a great time to discover new music, man. And some of these bands right here, you're going to learn that you're like, how have I not heard about these bands yet? And that's what this show is all about. Because a lot of people here are a little bit older, the kind of more my people. I hang out with a little bit of the older generation. So you guys get about the Cars and you understand about the Grateful Dead. But some of these bands, I'm going to kind of blow your mind a little bit. And some that the younger generation knows, the older generation might know. So I like to kind of mash this together, like we're going to learn how to all listen to the same music one way or the other. The music industry has really been tainted, and I'm kind of going off on a rant, but yeah, it's been tainted because it's too much algorithm produced instead of being whenever these bands were selling albums and they were selling gold and platinum records, like I mentioned, they were actually, you had to go to the concerts and you had to buy the albums to be influenced by the band or to influence the band, rather, I guess you could say. And now you can just do something like click on your phone and you could be any age and do that. And we all know that whenever we were kids, some of the music we listen to isn't necessarily the music that we will listen to now, but kids have so much influence on the way that songs are viewed, and that's why bands like Drake get millions and billions of views, billions of views sometimes even, because it's because people just click on it. And no disrespect to Drake or Taylor Swift or any of these people that are on top of the charts are doing their thing, but I think there's enough room to go around for everyone. Like bands like Little Stranger should be way more popular than they are because they have great songs and their messages in their songs are really great too. There's a lot of psychedelic stuff that they talk about, but it's a lot of like the way I'd like to think about it is like he's like preaching to a younger generation, telling them how they should think and how they should be without telling them, just suggesting, right? Without being like, you should do it like this. It's like, hey, I did it like this and this worked out for me. It's like it's all in the message of the song, and it's like a little bit of a hip hop reggae vibe. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get into them. I only listened to rap music my whole life as of 3 months ago, so no more rap. So all these bands are new to me. Okay, yeah, 100%, man. Prof is a rapper that I really like. It's one of the ones I just mentioned. I'll cover. I saw him here last April in Red Rocks. It was a freaking tremendous concert. It's actually on YouTube. You guys should check it out. It's total hip hop, total. I just like, whenever I like somebody's vibe and I like the message that they're trying to say in their songs and I like the music, I'm like, wow, how are they not more famous? So it's my job to be able to, I always tell my friends about them. And if I tell my friends about two bands recently, it's Little Stranger and Prof. But if you like hip hop, you'll like both of those bands. But if you're trying to branch out and get something new, I've covered several different bands. Leonard Skinner, The Cars. I've covered Grateful Dead. These are all bands that are musical bands. And some of the bands we'll be covering in the future, like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin. These are bands that are technical bands. They know how to jam and play music. They understood music. And they understand the language of music and playing together with people. Yep, 100%. It's a great band, dude. If you guys got any recommendations, I got a couple minutes before I'm going to dip out of here. Just go ahead and drop them in the chat. What you guys want to see, what you guys want to hear. I'll go ahead and quickly add them on my list here. I'm excited to cover Paramore next weekend. I'm also going to cover Hayley Williams' solo stuff as well, too. Some of her solo albums are really great. I think they're starting to get back to writing another Paramore album, though. I think it's in the works. But I'm here. There's a grapevine. I'm going to have to look more into that before the show. But, yeah. That's old school rock. And that's kind of the stuff that is like, to me, I love old school hard rock, like, Metallica and Black Sabbath and stuff like that. But I think the root of my music is more Nirvana and Bush and Paramore, Alice in Chains. I like kind of like the more alternative grunge kind of stuff than the more heavy metal or hard rock stuff. But I definitely love and appreciate all music like that. And Marshall Tucker Band is a great example of, country, even depending, can be good to me. So I played it right. Like it has all the fixings. So I like the way you put that in the thing you were saying. It's like soup that your mom makes from everything from the kitchen. And just throws it in there and you're like, well, it's good. It is what it is. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's good. I'm just going to eat it. Godsmack, 100%. Rage Against the Machine. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So, I play a lot of Godsmack. I play a lot of Rage Against. I play a lot of those songs with guitar. I like that kind of like, really, it doesn't have to be intricate. I was talking about this yesterday to a friend of mine. I think there's a lot of guitarists out there who are amazing guitarists, technically. Like they can play and play and play and play and play. But what I want to see is somebody riffing out. That's why this is called Riffin with A. I like riffs. I like, licks are great, but I like the feeling of it doesn't matter you could do this all day long, and that's really great and really amazing. I'm sure you put a lot of time and effort into that. But this, to me, playing a chord and just jamming out is a lot more like the sound. The music sounds better. I like that way more. The feel of a song. A lot of the rock bands that we're gonna cover, Seether is a great example. Green Day, Nirvana, they're bands that are very simple songs, but they rock out. They make it sound great. Oh, cool. Yeah, Godsmack, Rage Against the Machine. I'll go ahead and write them down on my list. Actually, appreciate that. That's great. We're already getting months down the line as we go, but I like it. At least we'll have a list and we'll just keep knocking these things out. It'll be years before we get through with their show. I love it. Cool. All right, cool. Added those in. Anybody else? Got just a couple minutes here. Yeah, I really enjoyed the bass being able to feel the music. I can't explain it. Yeah, I had a friend who was like that. Every time you got in his car, you would be able to freaking feel your spine after you got out. I like it a little bit. Definitely being at a live concert. You guys got to go see a live concert. It's something I've been starting to do more and more, especially now I'm in Colorado. It's way different music scene out here. And there's a great lot of venues. Like I said, last April, I saw Prophet Red Rocks. It was crazy, totally different compared to whenever I saw Leonard Skinner at a South Carolina State Fair, which was great. But it was like, where you go see a concert really matters because if you go to a small town like South Carolina, the people aren't really, they're just buying tickets just to show up. They're not really going to see the band. So whenever you go to a place like, Colorado, people are buying the tickets and they're excited to go see the band. They're traveling from out of state to come in and see the band. And you get way of a better experience. It was really disappointing at the South Carolina State Fair. As good as the time that I had, I felt like I was the only one in the crowd that was screaming and jumping and trying to get everybody hyped up and like singing songs. And I'm looking around like, guys, I'm like trying to start something, but it just wasn't happening. And the band on stage could really feel the vibe, and they were telling that people weren't feeling it. So, they're a little upset. Sublime, they have a great vibe. We should cover Sublime too soon because his son is singing back on the record. And man, oh my gosh, if you guys haven't heard his son, Brad's son from Sublime sing on the new record. He's done a couple songs already. Oh my gosh, guys, he sounds just like his dad. He's actually done a couple covers, a couple live covers on YouTube too. Check that out. Definitely. I'll write Sublime down in here too. And I guess while we're at it, we'll put Nirvana on the list. We'll have to cover them eventually anyway. Nirvana is one of my favorite bands. I love Nirvana because they're very simplistic band, really pop melodies, but they put distortion on guitar and make it sound great. Um, Whenever people used to tell me what's your favorite band, and again, I don't do favorites, and this is how I kind of came up with the idea of I don't do favorites because I love Nirvana, but I like other bands too. Like I haven't listened to Nirvana in a couple weeks, like because I go through periods where I do and don't listen to Nirvana. It's like different. Whatever's my favorite one day. I like vanilla ice cream, but then when I get tired of eating vanilla ice cream, I might switch up the chocolate. I'll switch it up a little bit. So it's kind of my idea. But whenever I was younger, I used to say that Nirvana was my favorite band because I was really infatuated with the backstory of Kurt Cobain and his stories and his writing, his influences like the Pixies and the Beatles and how he became. And that's the influence for this show. Is I used to spend more time in school typing on my computer doing research about Kurt Cobain than I actually would just spend two of my schoolwork, and then it branched over. So I would research about Kurt Cobain, and I would figure out, oh, Dave Grohl, he's the Foo Fighters. Oh, he's the singer from the Foo. Oh, he's the drummer for Nirvana. Okay, and then I would look up Foo Fighters, and then I would figure out, oh, then Crooked Vultures is a super band, and then I would learn about, um, gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the band. How horrible of me. Um, Queens of the Stone Age, because Queens of the Stone Age was in the super band, then Crooked Vultures with Dave Grohl. So then I would learn about them, Queens of the Stone Age, because I was like, I had known about Queens of the Stone Age and heard about their music, but I didn't really know about them. So once I started listening to it, I was like, okay, this makes complete sense. It was like pacing a timeline together for me, especially as a kid. I had no chronological timeline. I didn't know that Def Leppard was an old band. I thought they were just like made the day before as a kid to me. I had no idea. So I started to learn about chronological timeline and I realized, oh, there's no way that Led Zeppelin could be Def Leppard because they're two different styles. They come from two different times. Like it's a different vibe. Yeah, cool. Thank you guys for being here. I love it. We're gonna cover a bunch more bands. If you guys have any suggestions, put them in the comments. And we'll try to cover them all. We're getting a huge list going, which I like. We'll see. We'll cover. I want to cover some obscure stuff too. So You guys got any weirdos out there? I like weirdos. Come on, somebody that I never heard of. There's a couple out there. Like Thundercat is one that comes to mind. He's a bass player. You guys may or may not have heard of him. He's been on a couple songs that you probably have heard. Really weird guy, but great vibe, great musician. So we'll cover some weirdos like that too. If you guys have any people like that, or just regular bands, all the bands, Def Leppard, Led Zeppelin, Ozzy Osbourne, we'll cover them all. Yeah, appreciate you guys for showing up, and we'll see you guys next Saturday, same time, 12 EST. We'll see you guys Monday for the Mystic show. We're gonna cover the Bhagavad Gita again, so it's gonna be great. You guys tune in for that. Cheers. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day. Okay. Come meet me over on Instagram or Discord, and I'll send you the Zoom link for Jam Sesh. Thanks, guys.